There are many Siege creators, with every season bringing a new bundle of them to make content for the scene. But some of these creators slipped through the cracks. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about what happened to these R6 content creators. The first of which being E2Smooth, one of the most popular content creators that I'll be talking about in today's video. For those of you who don't know, E2Smooth used to be somebody that Jynxzi played with a lot. And this was before Jynxzi was the #1 most streamed Twitch streamer on Twitch. So before Jynxzi was big, this guy was playing with him. E2Smooth had also at this point built a little Twitch following of his own. But the thing was, he wasn't very good at the game. He talked a big game and talked trash to all of his opponents, but he wasn't really that good. People, noticing all of the hype built around this guy and how bad he actually was, wanted to play with him, obviously to get viewers themselves, to farm off of him. E2Smooth took this as people who were good at the game picking him up because they liked how good he was at the game. This, unfortunately in his head, created an ego about himself. He thought he was super good at the game because he was starting to hit champion every season. But he was hitting champion every season with terrible KDs. I mean, we're talking 0.5 KD in champion. He was getting carried all the way to the top just because people who were good at the game wanted to play him because of his viewership. And this created one of the worst egos we've seen in a Siege content creator ever. It eventually got to the point where people with Jynxzi's size were picking him up as well, not just any average good R6 player. So when Jynxzi made him famous and he was in champion every single season when he didn't deserve it, of course he would build an ego. He'd start tweeting things on Twitter like, if you're not an R6 champion in year 6, what are you doing? He even started to realize that he was getting hate, and he would tweet things out like, people want to hate on me, but I'm still champ every season. Who's gonna stop me? Like, yeah, everyone knew he was bad, but they couldn't really do anything about it. Because he was right. He was champion every season. Nobody was stopping him. Was it because he was getting carried? Sure, but he still was champ. And because nobody dared question his ego, and because he still was walking the walk that he was talking, it spiraled out of control, eventually leading him to ego the person that blew him up the most, which was Jynxzi. And this started the infamous E2Smooth versus Jynxzi beef.
Ever again in your life. You went 0-6 with 0 assists. You didn't shoot a body. You didn't shoot a body for 6 rounds. You didn't shoot a body for 6 rounds. You didn't shoot a body for 6 rounds. 6 rounds you didn't shoot a body. 0-6. Don't ever disrespect me again in your life.
It was at this point that not only content creators started to hate on him, but also his own community. Because when you look at somebody that you look up to as a creator start to bite the hand that feeds him, you're not going to respect him anymore. And if you don't respect somebody, chances are you probably don't like them either. Especially when they're disrespecting somebody who's super nice to literally everybody they meet, and that being Jynxzi. If you hate Jynxzi and you have beef with Jynxzi, that kind of says something about you. Now, nowadays, Jynxzi does get himself into a lot of beef, so not really anymore, but back then, he was just a pretty wholesome guy. Somebody else who I think is a really wholesome guy that unfortunately slipped through the cracks of R6 content creation is Braction. Now, if you thought that E2Smooth was big, Braction was one of the original biggest Siege content creators of all time. Braction at his peak had 300,000 subscribers, over 300,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. But something unfortunate and unavoidable happened to his channel that a lot of people don't know about. And that's the fact that his channel got hacked. His channel got hacked and the person who hacked his channel deleted all of his videos, making it to where even when he was eventually able to reach out to YouTube and get his channel back, it didn't matter because he didn't have videos on it to make him money for the next upcoming months in the first place. Not only this, but the channel actually ended up getting deleted too. So not only did he lose all of his monetary value and all of his old videos, but he lost his channel, the most important thing to him and the one thing that could make him money. But this didn't stop Braction. If you've ever talked to any Siege content creator that knows him, is one of the most hard-working people and content creators that you will ever meet. Now me, I haven't personally met the dude, but I can name about 2 content creators that inspired me to make content based off of their content, and Braction is for sure one of them. He's real, he's raw, he teaches you the game without bullshitting you. He's very much his own personality and he doesn't sugarcoat anything. He doesn't up production quality and it's pretty clear that he doesn't care about the money, or at least he doesn't show it. So when Braction's channel was deleted and Braction made a new channel, it didn't take long for people to go support him and for him to blow up again. Now, he doesn't have 300,000 subscribers, but he's still getting a good amount of views. He posts on YouTube very consistently, he streams on Twitch, he has one of the biggest and fastest growing Discord servers for Siege players, right now, and he's still making TikToks. He moved to Miami to be able to relax, and one of the biggest reasons that he wasn't consistently making content was because of a drug problem, which he's been publicly open about. And I'm pretty sure as of today and this time of recording, he's gotten a lot better about. So Braxton, yes, is a story of a content creator that not only fell off and had everything taken away from them, but is also the story of a content creator that looked at where he was and didn't let that stop him, which I think is incredibly inspiring to not only me, but to anybody else that wants to make content as a Siege content creator. Somebody else who also inspired a lot of people when they made content was Shock. Now, Shock is actually somebody that I do know personally. When it comes to hard workers, just like Braxton, Shock is second to almost nobody. Shock was one of the original R6 creators, and he used to make actual tip videos before he just made Spoit-like content. He made videos on how to get better at Siege, what settings you should use, tips and tricks, things that I used to make, honestly. And this got him his first few thousand subscribers. But there was one thing about Shock that a lot of these other content creators didn't have, and that was that Shock was very, very good at aiming. Whether it be through talent, raw skill, through being built different, or through just sheer hard work and talent, it didn't matter because Shock was very good at aiming, and people started to take notice. So when Shock started posting clips of him on YouTube instead of tip guides, it did even better. Shock was posting clips and entire videos of him just shitting on kids in rank, and this blew up a lot. He even started taking inspiration from other content creators. But this is what will lead to his eventual downfall. 2 years ago, Shock would post a video titled, "Can 2 champions beat 5 plats in Rainbow Six Siege?" And this video is his second most popular video to this day at this time of this recording. With 2.4 million views in such a short amount of time, this was a big deal for him. But there was a slight issue with this. This video idea wasn't his. It was actually from a different content creator who's known as Garfield is Doc. Garfield is Doc did this same exact video idea, and Shock took it. Now, on YouTube, taking video ideas isn't really that big of a deal. If you take somebody's thumbnail bar for bar, like you literally just copy paste their thumbnail, copy paste their title, copy paste their idea, that's one thing. But if you have a bit of a different story pacing, you have a different goal in mind, you have a different thumbnail, you have a different title, you have a slightly different idea, right? Then it's kind of excusable. Shock was in a place with this video specifically where it was in the middle of both of those two extremes. You could argue that sure, his video was different, the thumbnail wasn't the same, the title wasn't the exact same, the video cadence wasn't the exact same, but it was also pretty clear that he took Garfield's idea. He didn't at least try to change things up. And it was at this point that Garfield is Doc took notice, and he actually got pretty upset about it, as anybody would in this circumstance. It started a huge rivalry between Shock and Garfield is Doc, and Shock fans and Garfield is Doc fans, and anybody that supported either of them, whether it be content creators or not. And even to this day, you can know on Twitter, there's two sides of the Siege content creation scene on who you like and who you dislike. There's a rift in our community, which does suck, but it eventually led to Shock being hated by a majority of the Siege content community. Not only this, but it was around this time as well that Siege started to die as a game, and clip videos weren't really doing as well on YouTube because people like Uzi and Spoit came around and kind of outshined Shock. Not to say that Shock content or aiming was any worse than them. In fact, it was probably pretty equal. But unfortunately, when you have multiple people making the same exact type of content, the content kind of gets diluted. It doesn't get as much views or as much popularity because people are just fatigued of watching the same stuff over and over again. This, combined with Siege's dwindling player count, made it to where Shock got less and less views every single time he posted, even though he was posting daily, which leads me to where Shock is now, because Shock doesn't post Siege content anymore. Shock posts content from a game called The Finals. This game is a pretty fun game. I've played it, and when it initially launched, it got a lot of viewership, so Shock was doing pretty well for himself. Even now, Shock is getting more views on this game than he was posting the same exact type of content on Siege. So he is doing pretty well, and Shock has talked about if the cheater situation gets fixed on PC, he actually would probably come back to Siege and not take the finals as seriously. So it's really just an unfortunate state of the game moment as to why Shock fell off. But I think if the cheater situation does get solved, we will see Shock come back in the future. Somebody who will never be coming back in the future, unfortunately though, is our next YouTuber whose name is basically homeless. Now, if you thought any of the YouTubers that I've talked about in this video are popular, this is the most popular Siege content creator that is on this list. Basically, Homeless was one of the most unique content creators that made Siege content, hence why he had such a big following. He would borderline break the rules in every single one of his videos. He would hack the game, but it was in ethical ways that wouldn't give him an advantage, often towing the line as to what was accepted and what was not. He would hack the game and make it to where he was able to play Siege with a pineapple, but if you think about it, playing the game with a pineapple is probably not the most advantageous thing that you can do, so it's not like he was giving himself an advantage and being unethical with it, and he also wasn't doing it in ranked and winning with it. So he didn't really get banned, nobody really talked badly about it, it was just entertaining content. And it was so entertaining and so valued that Ubisoft actually acknowledged it and flew him out to make a cinematic trailer about the new Ela Elite that was dropping. Yes, this was back then when the Ela Elite hadn't dropped yet, but you get the idea. The entire purpose of the trailer was to have him making a video, a Siege trailer of the Ela Elite skin, where he would be using Ela in-game with the Ela Elite skin, but he would be playing with an in-real-life Ela mine. He wouldn't be playing with a mouse and keyboard or a controller, no. He would be using an Ela mine that he hacked into a computer to be able to play the game. So not only in his head was this Ubisoft acknowledging what his content was doing was okay, but it was almost like they were accepting of it. And this was the ultimate form of acceptance that he needed for his content to continue and grow. But unfortunately, that is not at all what happened. Because during the actual video shoot of this trailer, he witnessed somebody watching his content for the first time. And this piece of content was playing a ranked game where he was playing as all 10 players in the game. This definitely was more than just ethical hacking. It definitely towed the line more than his other videos, and the people at the Siege production team hadn't seen it yet. So there was a little bit of awkwardness in the air of whether they were going to continue to do the trailer or not. But if that wasn't enough, when he was doing the trailer and playing the game, the account he was doing it on actually got banned for cheating. So not only was there a stigma in the air about how he might be cheating unethically, but that was just solid, hard proof that he probably wasn't somebody that Ubisoft wanted to associate with. So after the trailer was done being recorded, he got paid half the money that he was owed in the contract, which honestly is more than anybody really expected him to get paid, and Ubisoft cut ties with him. Basically, Homeless took this to heart, and he knew that he was in the wrong. He knew that he had broken the terms of service, and there was nothing that he could really do. So since then, he hasn't made any Siege content. He still makes content to this day. He still makes money. He's still living good. So in that aspect, I guess he hasn't really fallen off, but it's just unfortunate to see one of the best Siege creators getting treated in a way that makes it seem like everything he did wasn't worth it. The same exact thing can be said for the next YouTuber on this list, Bad R6. Now this is a content creator that I actually get compared to a lot of the times, but Bad R6 was a content creator that made solo queue strats, kind of like I did back in the day. And he was the first R6 content creator to do it, and do it really, really well. And it was a subgenre niche of the Siege community that we hadn't seen yet. So naturally, because it was an uncontested market, he racked up viewership and subscribers. But eventually, he got to the point where he was posting less and less, and he was getting tired of Siege in its current state, because if anyone's played this game, you know how bad it is, especially in the last 5 years. Eventually, he made a second channel where he started posting variety content, and on his main channel he posted variety content too, but because of the fact that most of the people watched him for Siege content, the views that he got on his channel just went lower and lower and lower each time that Bad posted, eventually leading to this YouTuber's burnout. A pretty simple story, a pretty short story, and a non-complicated one, but a sad one at that, because he was a well-respected member of the Siege community, just like our next YouTuber, Serenity17. Garfield as Doc put it best. Serenity17 is your Siege YouTuber's favorite Siege YouTuber. One of the original Siege YouTubers, to be exact. Serenity17 used to post content all of the time, being one of not only the biggest Siege content creator, but one of the best as well. Now, the reason that Serenity17 would eventually fall off due to lack of posting is because of mental health reasons. Serenity17 would talk about how he just didn't feel like posting content anymore. There was no reward to it. It was fun at first, but it wasn't fun now. Not only because of the state of the game and the lack of new content coming out that he could make content on in the first place, but as a Siege content creator, I definitely can understand burnout. You make so much content all of the time, it takes up a lot of your day, you have people hating on you fucking constantly, it's mentally draining. You have this goal that you're trying to achieve constantly that you don't know if you're ever actually going to be able to achieve for a game that you don't really enjoy playing that much. I get it. It's hard to be a content creator, especially after a long while, and Serenity17 is a perfect example of what burnout can do to a content creator. Serenity17 would publicly acknowledge this, gain a lot of support, but it wouldn't matter. Eventually, he would still continue to post, but after weeks and months of doing that, he would stop posting altogether. He said that eventually he would come back, but it's been years, and Serenity17 is still nowhere to be found. Which really does suck because Serenity17 was one of the biggest YouTubers for Siege, and I know a lot of people miss him. The same exact thing can be said for our next YouTuber, which is Anthony Pitt1. Anthony Pitt1 is very popular not only because he made good Siege content, but because the Siege content he made was extremely high quality. If you look at the quality of video editing that he had in any of his videos, you would begin to see that. There's a lot of content creators that make content today that you can tell were inspired by this guy. People like Anifex or people like Garfield, who have very similar editing styles, at least in my opinion. The unfortunate part is, just like Serenity, he just slowly over time stopped posting. Whether it be due to lack of motivation, in real life stuff, mental health, it didn't really matter. Anthony Pitt1 just stopped posting. He didn't stop posting altogether, as he still does post to this day, but it's very, very few in between. And his latest upload was 2 years ago, posting maybe a few times a year, and now I don't even know if he posts at all this past year. He may never post again, nobody knows, because he just posts so little. Unfortunately, I don't really have the story of Anthony Pitt as much as I did with the other Siege content creators, but if you're wondering where this massive Siege YouTuber went, he just kinda stopped posting. It is what it is. The same exact thing that happened to Anthony Pitt1 also happened to the next YouTuber I'll be talking about, which is Gavinacity. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Gavinacity? I don't know. Something like that, but you, you get the idea. I'll put his channel on screen right now. This YouTuber did something that even Siege YouTubers now don't do, and that was Rainbow Six Siege skit content. It's a pretty untapped market, and because of that, Gavinacity got pretty popular. The unfortunate part about it is that he just got burnt out. Not much is known as to why he left, but one thing that was said is that Gavinacity got an in-real-life job, which takes up a lot of time. But not only that, when you start posting YouTube and you start doing it for money because you have bills to pay, YouTubing becomes less about a hobby and less because you enjoy it and you have a goal to achieve, and more about the fact that it's just a job for you, which makes it 30 times less enjoyable for anybody who does YouTube, which is why Gavinacity doesn't actually post anymore. With that out of the way, that is it for today's video. Check out this next video. My name's Alka, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.